And I'll share my screen. Good. So, well, thank you for having me here. Today, I'm going to be talking about Rotary Global Grants, and in particular, because Cypress Fairbanks may want to be doing a global grant with Pakistan. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I want to start out by telling a story about when I was young in elementary school. We used to have air raid drills where we had to hide under our school desks. And why was that? That was because they said the Russians had the bomb. And of course, we're all fearful. We're just kids. And it turned into hatred. I mean, if you had given me a button to push that would have eliminated all Russians, I would have pushed it. Kind of like having a bee on my hand. I'd swat it before it stung me as a kid, before I knew how beneficial bees were. And my thought at the time was Russia is our enemy. But I had the great opportunity to take a high school course on world literature, and I read stories by Russian authors, and it was like, oh my goodness, Russians are people too. They're just like us, same foibles, same stories. Next, I'd like to share a story about this movie, The Russians Are Coming. Highly recommended if you haven't seen it. It's very entertaining, very funny. And toward the end of the movie, the Americans and the Russians all have guns pointed at each other. They can see the whites of each other's eyes. Dead silence. Tremendous tension. Could hear a pin drop. And if you notice the steeple in the upper left-hand corner, a couple of boys watching from the top of that steeple slipped, or the railing broke, and one of the boys slid down the roof, and he would have fallen to his death, but his belt got caught on the gutter. What happened? All the soldiers, both sides, dropped their weapons and they ran to rescue the boy. They formed a human pyramid and they rescued the boy, and there was cheering and hugging. So my question is, what converted mortal enemies into bosom buddies? It was a joint service project. So that's what we're talking about today. And I've since had Russians stay at our home through Rotary. And I think it was Mark Twain who says, travel is the enemy of prejudice. And Rotary, by introducing us to people around the world, does that. Now, that always bothers me. Sometimes even the president of the United States will say word for word, China is our enemy. Well, why not say they're our competitor? They're not pointing guns at us. Or why not call them trading partner, which is really what they are. We rely heavily on what China is doing. That's why Rotary is so important, to convert enemies to friends. As an aside, I spent my career in the fossil fuel industry where we all scoffed at the climate concerns. The planet now needs to work together on this project, or the Pakistani floods will be recreated around the world. I mean, 80% of New York City will need to be abandoned. My grandkids will probably see that if we don't change our ways. Harvard University will be underwater. Half of Florida. Once I told my grandson, we're going to Florida, let's go, we're on vacation. And he said, oh, we better hurry up before it's underwater. So I was glad to hear that he knew. And I can say that China is meeting all of their climate promises. They were building coal plants once a week. They've stopped that. Now they're replacing that with ecologically sound green power. And I ask, are we? Now here's continuing the China story. Here you see a Chinese couple who came to the United States for a graduation party for their son, to see their son graduate from a local college. And they asked Rotary, through that's Mel in the middle there, if Rotary could help them with a water problem in the village near their home. Not only is the water dirty, but it had arsenic in it that was not good for bones and teeth. So Helen and 3 other Rotarians went there to plan the project. And of course, Kids everywhere. This happened in Pakistan too. She'd get swamped with kids wanting her autograph. When she just was in Africa just recently, the kids wanted to feel her hair. Is it okay if we stroke your hair? Sure. Travel makes friends. And there came a time where Helen is going to meet with Chinese government officials. I mean, what do you picture when you picture Chinese government officials? Well, here's Helen meeting with a government official. Not so dangerous. And I'd like to tell you the story of this boy named Michael. He was born in a remote village of China, never saw a traffic light growing up, and he came to Shanghai on a Rotary project. Of course, this is a whole new environment for him. He said, he shared with me that his father taught him America is our enemy and that all Americans are only interested in money. So he sees Helen and I there on a water project, wanting to help people, interested in birds. You see I'm carrying Helen's camera there, interested in nature. That's why Rotary is so important. That's why working together with people in other countries is so important. So my wife just returned from her third trip to Africa, where a Rotary Global Grant will be distributing 6,000 mooncatcher kits at 20 schools. You'll be hearing more about a mooncatcher kit soon, but it's a washable menstrual kit. And they'll teach the girls at 2 of the schools how to make them. At the same time, Helen will be giving to each, the local Rotarians will give to every one of the schools a micro SD card. They're only $3. And on it, we have a digital education from math, science, geography, and it's a child can hold it in their hand. If they have access to a phone, they can do some self-learning. Teacher can guide them as to what videos they would like the students to watch. And it's designed for regions without affordable internet. So we're starting to add a delivery of a micro SD to every school we go to. And if they want more than the one, we'll send more. Right. On one of Helen's trips, she left the group to go birding. She asked her driver, "He won't charge, will he?" And the driver said, "Oh, yes, he will." So that's my little bit of humor. So I spent my career in the fossil fuel industry. Here I am working at a power plant on a turbine that makes electricity. And when I was asked to go to Pakistan, my family was against it. My wife was against it. Don't go. You know, Pakistan is dangerous. There's terrorists. There's infidels. They're unfriendly. It turns out these were all misconceptions. One of the first people I met was Shabir. We became great friends, and he's the one who taught me the customs. He also taught me that Jesus is an important part of the Muslim religion, that Jesus is in the Quran. It's the virgin birth is in there. Whenever they even say his name, Jesus, they pound their chests and they say, "Peace be upon him." Whenever they write it, they put "Peace be upon him," PBUH next to it. Turns out Muhammad is one of the greatest spreaders of Christianity ever, or the teachings of Jesus, I should say. Now, Shabir was earning $20 a month. Actually, he was earning $50 a month, but he had a debt, $30 a month to pay for a computer that he bought. He thought, boy, if I just learned computing, I could advance my career. So I tried to give him a $30 tip, which would be like 6 weeks' pay, the way things were going for him. He turned right around, handed it back, says, "No." At this point, he knew about what Rotary does. He donated the $30 to Rotary. I went back and told my club, and the club gave him a $1,000 scholarship to pay for the computer and to learn how to use it. Because he had the computer, but he just was a useless box to him. And in a later visit, he invited me to his home. We did a homestay. They tend not to hang mirrors in their home. They consider it a little vain. So here, in order to shave, he's holding a mirror for me. Now here's another fellow I met right away, my driver. So here's Kadir's story. On our day off, He took me sightseeing. I got to know him really well. We became great friends. At his family's home, I learned how to eat, how the men eat separately than the women, and they eat on the floor. And a day came where he and his wife and son came to New York to visit us. Another example of, it's not an official Rotary program, but it certainly is just like Rotary's friendship exchanges. So I asked my driver, could he show me a village? So he made an appointment with Kujar Village for me to go visit. One of the engineers at the power plant heard about this, and he pulled me aside into a private area, shut the door, put his face right up to my face and said, "Don't go, don't go, it's dangerous." But I thought, well, this is kind of scary. This is not my wife or my mother telling me don't go to Pakistan. This is somebody who lives here. He knows that this must be a dangerous thing to do. But I decided, well, this could be the last thing I ever do, but I'm going to go, and I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to skip my appointment. And who did I meet but this Bali Malik, who's on the call right now. He's a Rotarian today. Well, he was 19 years old at the time, and he gave me a tour. And as he's showing me all the fields, and he's shimmying up a tree to go grab a weaver's bird nest to show me, he put his arm around me and he said, "Fen, Fen, Fen, Fen." He was saying friend. I was his friend. So this is the dangerous place. This is not Kujar village, but this is the things that I saw in villages. It was almost biblical. You got the women at the well, women washing at the well. They don't have washing machines, but they wash their clothes with their friends, and they have a good time. It's a social power. Donkey power in the villages. After being away for a month, Helen said, "That's it. I don't want you being away for so long anymore." So she said, "Either you have to find a different job, or I'm going to quit my job and come with you." And that's what she did. And eventually she even started working for me and with me, which was great. We got to travel the world together, all across the US, all across the world, working in power plants. Here's Helen in Pakistan working on taking some measurements on the turbine stationary parts. So now the two of us went back to Bali's village, and this is what we were greeted with. They weren't thanking us for having done any projects or anything. We hadn't done anything. Actually, I did see Bali showed me some boys that were albino, and as they came out of their house to meet me, they were squinting into the sun. They could hardly see. So I did give them a pair of sunglasses. So that's all I had done for them, and this is the way we were greeted. How do we thank this kind of generosity? Oh, in fact, they filled our trunk with so many gifts that we couldn't carry it all home. We had to give 2/3 of it away to the hotel staff. How do we thank this amazing generosity? Well, if I was just an individual engineer, I mean, what could I do? Rotary to the rescue. Key was Rotary. Key was being introduced to somebody like Shazad, who's also on this meeting, and he was your speaker last week. Because now we had a hardworking, dedicated partner who could be a partner for a matching grant, just like the grant you're considering doing. So what did we do? Desks, books, uniforms, the uniforms they're wearing in this photo, shoes, toilets, playgrounds, ceiling fans. Oh, you notice on the desk, by the way, it has the rotary wheel, and credit to the foundation. Water in the schoolyards. Toilets. And a lot of students, especially the girls, will drop out of school if the school doesn't have toilets. I mean, they can only be so old before they're willing to go out in the field and just squat. New libraries. You see Bali's the one standing in a library, and he's showing me how they keep track of the books. I visited one school several miles away, and I said, "Hey, did you know that there's a library now in Kujar village?" And he said something to his students in Urdu, and they all reached into their backpacks and started pulling out books. They were taking advantage of the books in Fuji. There's my wife, Helen. I love some of her pictures. She really is a good photographer. Here's a girl reading to me from one of the books. And you notice the front of all of the books were stamped, donated through the Rotary Foundation, matching grant, such and such. And the other thing I want to point out is it also lists 5 districts, 7190, 7170, 770. These districts all donated to this project. And that's how I'm going to suggest that you raise your money. You don't have to reach into your pockets, which is nice, but I'm going to suggest you call district governors. You're going to want to raise about 15,000. And if you can get 5 districts like that to all give you 3,000, it's not too painful for anybody. One of the things that was in our grants was to install a computer lab. And that's when I met Frank Quinn, the son of one of our Rotarians. And it turns out he put in computer labs in developing nations. So I said, would you go? Sure. So my club paid his airfare, and he went and bought the computers, and you took the grant money, went to the marketplace, bought the computer, set it up, and showed them how to run a computer. Those computers turn into education. You see the girls are at the computer and the boys are sitting, waiting their turn. And this fellow said that he was able to get the job that he had because of what he had learned at that computer lab. We also provided an ambulance, which is healthcare. Here you see Shahzad and I handing over the keys to Bali. I'll admit, I was against an ambulance at first. I thought, who in this village has a driver's license? This thing's going to end up in a ditch. But that ambulance stayed on the road for about 15 years, taking pregnant women to the hospital, cutting down on the number of deaths. And here's the driver, the ambulance driver. And because families in Pakistan don't scatter the way we do in America, but they stay together, he lived in a compound with all kinds of aunts and uncles, and his father said, son, I want you to be the ambulance driver. And he'd come home from work and there'd still be food on the table, something that would be very hard for us to do. We also shipped 3 40-foot containers. Here you see my club members dismantling the bikes to get ready to ship them. And here you see Bali on the other side. Again, Bali's attending this meeting, unloading the trucks. Bikes for fun. Bikes for work, for transportation too. It's not here in the US, we use bicycles mostly for recreation, but there it's transportation. And it was interesting seeing a potter wearing a Cooperstown baseball t-shirt, something I'm sure was on those shipping containers. We also shipped 3 containers from Medical Bridges. That's my goodness, they're in Houston, aren't they? It didn't occur to me till just now. They're in Houston, and they provided a 40-foot container of medical supplies for a small token fee of $300. So all we had to do was pay the $5,000 to ship it. So for $25,000, we shipped 5 containers, 3 with medical supplies and the other 2 that you just saw. And auditors looking at that, they valued the medical supplies at over $500,000. A very well leveraged global grant. Here you see the medical supplies on the other end. There I am dressed up in Pakistani garb. We also did water buffalo, and it was kind of a microcredit program where, well, I'll talk more about that in a minute. And we also provided goats. Here's Helen turning over a goat to a farmer. And we also gave them the widows. And you notice she's holding a calf. The reason I say it's a microloan is that we gave her the cow, but in payment, every time a calf is born, half the value of that calf is turned over to the rest of the village to be used for education or street lighting or whatever they decide. That's the way we set it up. Another widow, another happy widow. who received a water buffalo. The dung is dried on walls and it's used for fuel and as building materials. And here's food for the water buffalo. Now, I assume because I was raised a Catholic, Bali wanted me to meet some Christian women. So that's what this group is, Christian women living in their village, in the village. And they asked for sewing machines. With Shahzad's help, we provided 600 sewing machines. They all say the Rotary on them. Here's some of them being delivered. Wherever you do a project, the foundation insists that you have a sign that declares that it's a Rotary project. Shahzad also arranged to put the names of all the donors around the base of the machine. So there you see my name, his club's name, names of individuals that, heck, gave $100, you got your name on the sewing machine. And there's my wife. It turns out most of the machines we gave were hand cranked, and they were actually preferred by the women more than the electric ones. This was a school we visited. It may have been a madrasa that was turned into a Cambridge education type school. And they told me, hard to believe, they told me that the village women made these shirts. They just looked too store-bought to me. But sure enough, those are the women who made them. And they used some of these sewing machines to start sewing schools. Here I am looking at the school attendance book, the girls who come every day to go to school to learn how to sew. As a result of these projects, 3 new Rotary clubs formed in the village area, and one still exists. When Bali said he wanted to be a Rotarian, I tried to discourage him. I said, no, being a Rotarian is kind of expensive. Maybe what you should have said is create a Rotary Community Corps, which is like a Rotary Club without the dues. And but they formed the clubs and they did their own projects. So as a result, it's a ripple effect. We do something and the local villagers now have a mechanism. Now they have the tools of Rotary to do projects on their own. At first, we didn't know about Rotary Community Corps. It's one of the 9 or 10 tools that Rotary gives us. But if I had known about it, we would have called the first organization the Rotary Community Corps of Kujar Village. Not knowing that, they called it, much to our objection, they named it after us, the Lon Helen Welfare Society. And this is one of Helen's photographs on the cover of, like, it's a 40-page handbook that Rotary put out on Rotary Community Corps. And I'm so proud that not one of Helen's photos is on the cover. Here we didn't even know about it, and now we're featured in it. And the Rotary Community Corps of Shamki Village, Rotary Community Corps, and they're welcoming us, Rotary Community Corps of Farrukhabad, Rotary Community Corps of, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this. And don't go, it's dangerous. This is how we're greeted with children throwing flowers at us everywhere we went. These flowers, kids throwing flowers at us. At this school, we were handing out pens. This is a girls' school. We handed out pens at girls' schools and boys' schools. One of my local Rotarians he owned a stationery store, and he gave me a suitcase full of pens. So here we are distributing them. That's when I found out one of the things that's kind of nice about the Pakistani dress is you can use your shirt as a basket. So there's Bali handing out pens. There's the boys holding their pens up. One of the teachers said, sorry, but what good are these? We don't have any paper. Oh, there's Bali and Shahzad. This is at the Luckline School, but they made sure that these schools got the paper they need. These are like composition books that they're holding. And here we're being thanked. This is the Abru school where all those kids are very poor. They all get a free education at this school. It's a wonderful school. Here's a boys' school. That's the Lookline School. Here's girls thanking us. Thank you, Rotary. So why do all this? Well, I remember reading where I've heard generals talking on TED Talks, and I've seen in books that they've written, they say that it's equally important. If you want peace on the planet, it's as equally important as a strong military, and of course they'll say that, is goodwill and better friendships. Sounds like it's right out of the 4-way test playbook. Better friendships with Pakistani Rotarians. And remember, Pakistani Rotarians and Rotarians around the world, just like in the US, they're people of influence, they're people with purpose. It's so wonderful to be able to work together with them. And I'm sure once you give a girl a menstrual kit that lasts for 5 years, she would say to anybody, don't you dare say anything bad about America. This is what helps bring peace. Now here we are lined up for a newspaper photo with the superintendent of the police academy standing next to me. When I just noticed Shabir is on the other side of me. He's the first fellow I talked about. And after we took this picture, he said, I want one more picture. I want to photograph hugging an American. So ideas for Cypress Fairbanks. I'm very enamored by the Mooncatcher Project, and I encourage you to do it. Those are washable menstrual kits. It keeps girls in school. Period should end a sentence, not a girl's education. One of the members of our club is from Africa, and I asked her, what did she do when she was a girl? And she said, my father would kick me out of the house, and I would squat for 5 days swatting flies. When she heard about menstrual Mooncatcher kits, boy, I'll tell you, she emptied her retirement fund, in fact, essentially, to establish menstrual kits in her school, in her village. Here's the inventor, the designer, and the founder of the Mooncatcher Project. She's holding up the carrier because a lot of these girls don't have underwear. So you need a carrier to hold the pad. The pad is the checkered thing in the center. It looks like, if you unfold it, it looks like a washcloth. And when you fold it up, it's 4 layers thick. It'll absorb even the heaviest of flows. And if it doesn't manage to do that, in the carrier, there's an emergency layer of Tyvek. It's the thing we wrap homes with. And the reason, and that'll prevent, even in the worst case, a girl staining her dress and being laughed at. The Tyvek is important because it's an antibacterial. You won't have bacteria growing inside the carrier. And Ellie will be another one of your partners. If you decide to do a Mooncatcher project, she'll provide you the Tyvek inserts, for example, if we can't find them in Pakistan. She'll provide guidance. She'll help with the quality control. And she's the one who just went with my wife to Africa, or actually the other way, my wife accompanied Ellie. So what are they? They're inexpensive. They're only $5 to make. About $3.50 for material, about $1.50 to pay the seamstress. They last for a long time, 4 or 5 years. There's 3 pads in every kit. They're adjustable for all size girls as the girls grow. So there are other washable pads, but they come in 4 different sizes, and you have to decide, am I going to have a heavy flow today, or how big am I? Or no, this is one kit fits all, adjusts to 16 different sizes. We give them to schoolgirls for free. And we give them to schoolgirls only after they've attended the health training. Here's Helen in Pakistan, along with Karen Babin, who that year was the representative of the Rotary International president to Pakistan. And there they are showing Mooncatcher to, this is the Abru school. What's in the kit? It's got a carrier, it's got a waterproof bag, so that you can put used pads in it to carry it back and forth to school, or to carry it home, I should say. And if you can use it doubles as a washing machine. You just, with a cup of precious water, you put it in that bag and you swish it around and then drain it, repeat, squish it around, repeat, and then you hang it out on the line to dry. there are other washable pads, and all power to them. They're not competitors. We want this problem solved. But other washable pads are a little embarrassing to hang on the line, whereas this kit, they unfold, they look like a washcloth. They're not embarrassing to hang on the line and be sterilized by the sun. Every kit comes with a calendar so the girls can track their cycle to know when to bring their kit to school. There's a care instructions how to wash the pad, and they all come with a drawstring bag to carry their materials back and forth. There's more details on the carrier. The waist tie is a simple shoestring, and it has elastic on it to tie securely in place. Here's some girls holding up their kits. And the mantra is, we keep girls in school. And in addition to creating gender equality and helping girls get an education, education is key to ending poverty. So that's why they're giving free to school girls. Here's Ellie demonstrating how to wear one. These are girls. They look kind of like guys because they all have short hair, but that's a classroom of girls. Here's Helen and I at a moonbee making them here in the US. But most of them are made in country. So right now there's been 700 made in Pakistan in Bali's village by his sister. And if we do a grant, that would be the plan, to make them in country. So if you decide to do a grant, minimum grant is $30,000. At $5 a piece, that's 6,000 schoolgirls. 6,000 girls. And Salma Khan helped deliver some of the first 700 made in Pakistan. But where there is poverty, education is the golden bracelet. This was the, I met a district governor who was born in poverty in Turkey, and this was his message: education is the golden bracelet. I feel that in addressing poverty, there's a trilogy: moon catchers, which given to schoolgirls helps with education, and microloans. But a microloan global grant is tremendously complex. So I wouldn't recommend doing microloan global grant. Instead, I would recommend kiva.org. There you can go online, you can find somebody in Pakistan who wants to borrow some money to buy a sewing machine. You can donate $25 towards it. And guess what? You get paid back. So after a couple of years and the loan is paid back, you can take your money out. You can cash out. Or of course, what we all do is you pick somebody else to give the $25 to. Our club has invested about $3,000, but we've made about $9,000 in loans as the money recycles. Now, climate scientists at Project Drawdown, they say that educating girls is the #2 most important thing we can do for the planet. This is more, they rank it more important than solar, more important than electric cars. So moon catchers and education address both poverty and climate simultaneously. Now, the elements of a global grant, maybe you've done them before, but so you maybe already know this. It requires 2 countries, requires a dependable partner. You have to decide what you're going to do. You're going to have to put together a cost estimate. You can just pick the minimum if you want, and then you have to raise half the money. So you already meet the requirement for 2 countries. You've already got dependable partners. So next you have to decide what it is you want to do. And as much as I want Mooncatcher or education, it's really not, I don't want to be one of those charities that make the mistake of telling villagers what you need. Bali, Shahzad, they're your best advisor to pick a project. And also what appeals to you, I suppose, but better to listen to them. Then when it's time to raise the money, start calling district governors. You get 5 district governors to give you 3,000, you're done. And then you have to submit the application online. And it's not, we don't use the paper applications anymore. And Shahzad and I can help you with that. So here's your dependable partners. Both of these gentlemen are attending this meeting. And this is Bali's sister. She's the one who made the first mooncatcher kits in Pakistan. Here she is handing over a water purification filter. This is Lubna when I first met her. She donated $1 to my Rotary Club. She saved 2 cents a week until she had a buck, and she donated it to Rotary. It was about a third of her allowance she gave away. Now, for raising half the money, I've already said that the easiest way to do it, especially with the new rules, because they don't match dollar contributions anymore. All they'll do is donate district funds 80%. But so the easiest way with the new rules is start making phone calls. Call your own district governor. Once I was doing a matching grant for an ambulance. It was a $40,000 ambulance. And the reason it was so expensive is it had to be able to cross rivers where there's no roads, be able to, it had to be something like a Toyota Land Cruiser. I made one call to my district governor and he gave me half the money. Boom, done, one phone call. Each district governor has a budget of district designated funds. The more money they have depends on what you or your district donated to the foundation 3 years prior. Half of that comes back as district designated funds. It's competitively available for them. There's 500 district governors out there. So, and you can reach them using the Club Locator app on your phone. You get their phone number and email address. But better to work with your district governor and ask for their context. Then it's more of a, it's not so much of a cold call, it's a personal request. So here would be an example of how you might fund it. 15,000 from the district governors, 80% from the foundation adds 12. Clubs and individuals might kick in 3,000, and there you've got the minimum. Now, what to do? This is from Shahzad's presentation last week. You could focus on education, furniture, computers, books, solar. Now, let me mention solar. Turns out Pakistan is a great place for solar. They're in the hot zone. This is the solar cooker that's the most widespread worldwide, a box cooler. This is a solar oven designed by a Rotarian in the Rotary Club of San Diego. When I first contacted him, he donated $1,000. He donated 20 solar cookers to our club as we were distributing them around the world. And now he's selling them to us. You can buy them on Amazon for $100, $120, but he'll sell them to Rotarians for these good causes for only $36. And he even pays the shipping, but that's only US wide. So you still have to get it in somebody's suitcase or figure out a way to get them across the ocean to deliver them. So this is the Haynes 2 solar cooker. Right now, as I speak, there's a bunch of people heading to Malawi, Africa. And when I told Farah about this, she volunteered to pay for 3 of them. So thank you, Farah. Other suggestions from Shahzad is vocational training. There already are vocational training institutes. We can support them with the equipment they need. Computers, tools, drills, hammers, saws, whatever it is that they need for vocational training. Now, here he mentions providing computers. So I wanted you to know about this after. It's spelt like after, except there's a double R at the end instead of 2 E's. You can get computers for as little as $10. One year, our Rotary Club provided 50 computers to the graduating class of an inner city school. We were working with the 5th graders all year long, and as a graduation present, we gave them all a computer. And we used after to find them, to find organizations that would sell them to us. Here's a map. If you go to the after website, you'll see this map. And you notice there's one in Houston. Click on that, and there you can ask them about getting laptops or desktops. And every organization might charge something different. The one near me, if you click on Albany, this is where we've been getting our computers for years, and they only charge $10. Actually, the computers are free. The $10 goes to Microsoft to pay for the operating system. Going back to what Shahzad was suggesting, a survival package. Remember, the initial intent of Farah and her mother, Salma, was to help the flood victims. So a survival package, bedding, utensils, fans, sewing machines, solar panels, LED light bulbs, water sanitation facilities, and new homes for $1,000. Now, Rotary for years would not allow a building as to be funded with foundation money, but apparently I think Shazad said that changed. In this case, in this flood affected area, that might be just for the disaster relief money, but that's another possibility. So I'd like to offer my assistance to you. If you decide to do moon catchers, I'll be glad to draft it. Why? We just had an approved grant, the one that Helen went to Africa for. So I already have the language all set. I can help you with that. I also will pledge to raise $3,000 for you. And Helen plans to write an article for the Rotarian magazine or Rotary magazine about moon catchers in Africa, which could be expected to increase funding available for moon catcher grants. So these are the things we'll be doing. But if you, again, it's up to the two partners, you and the folks in Pakistan, decide what to do. And no matter what you pick, I promise to ask our district governor for money and also ask them for, you got any friends that I can go? I'm a professional beggar, if you haven't noticed, but I can go, I'll be glad to make phone calls to district governors that my district governor knows. I'll ask my club for funding. Well, my wife and I will make a contribution, of course. We'll help you any way we can. Why do all this? As a teacher, students. Because there's a need, because it binds us in friendships, because it changes Pakistanis' impressions of Americans. It changes our impression of Muslims and our impressions of Pakistanis, because it isn't up to the governments alone. In fact, Shazad showed me a high school that was just a shell of a brick building that was falling to pieces. And then there's a plaque on the side of it, donated, built by the United States of America. And I can't help wonder, at any rate, the governments don't necessarily get it right. It's up to us. And it fulfills and rewards each of us. This is so much fun, so rewarding. It gives us purpose. New friends await in every corner of the world. There's my wife. And there's Shazad and I and my wife. And thank you very much.
It's working. Thank you, Lon, very much. Wow. Okay, now I feel really bad. I don't do anything. But you've inspired us. I mean, the comments coming through the chat from our members asking to do different things. That's just great, Lon. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Lon? No? Okay.
Well,
go ahead. Oh, yes, sir. Go right ahead, please.
Thank you, Lon, for the excellent presentation. I don't have a question. I just have a small clarification or correction, I would say. That you mentioned that on the sewing machine, I suggested the name of all the partners should be there. It was actually Bali's suggestion, and he was the one who actually carried it out.
Oh,
so,
nice.
So credit should go to Bali for that.
Well, there you go.
I don't know
now
how you did that.
You have to edit your presentation now.
Okay. Well, no, I'll include this tail end of it.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we will definitely, I think FAIR is very interested in starting up a project. So we'll definitely be in contact with you guys, trying to get this up and running. So something for our club to do, not only in the community, but globally. So it's something would be fun to do. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I think we're at the end of the program. So we have our drawing. Anybody else? No? Okay. Who would like to draw? Just draw. Did you buy a ticket?